Welcome back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch Esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off, it's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through! It's just gonna solidify everything within those.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters Tier.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes an Adelaide immediately goes back like fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2, 3, so back and forth.
Welcome in everyone to another Wednesday here in the CGL. My name is Speedy and I am joined here now by Shadowfang. Shadow, we've been starting our weeks off together lately. How you doing?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good. Excited to see some Masters tier gameplay now. This is the only tier I haven't casted yet this season, I believe, at least. Yeah, I could be wrong about that, but this is going to be my first time seeing this tier and seeing what sort of bans they're going to be looking for. And, you know, what exactly is the meta at this tier? Is it going to be Hazard, or are we going to see Malga like I've been seeing in other tiers as well?
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot of people keeping their eyes on the things that have been changing in Overwatch, and we're going to discuss that in just a second. But first, and most importantly, is that tonight we're going to be watching the Celestial Knights go up against Fellowship Esports. Celestial Knights coming off of a win. They are 1-1, going up against Fellowship Esports, who are also 1-1, but coming off of a loss. So these two teams have different momentum coming into this one, and one of them is trying to change their fate, while the other is trying to keep their momentum that they've been building rolling, continuing to go on. So first and foremost thing to address is that tonight we will not be playing with the new perks. This week will not include perks here in the CGL. That will be on its way very, very soon, but not just yet. It's a new feature. Want to make sure everything gets worked out before we start bringing that in. So tonight will be what you remember from previously, pretty much all the same metas that we've seen lately. All these teams are going to be running with what they're comfortable with. But before we can do any of that, we got to go ahead and take a look at the maps. Our first map coming up is going to be Control, and we've got Ilios to start us off. Then to give the rundown, we've got Kings Row, Runasapi, New Junk City, and then Shambali Monastery, which we were talking about that last one a little bit during the show, and we have some differing opinions on it.
I've just never really cared for Shambali Monastery personally, but that's just my personal vendetta. The rest of these maps I'm a big time fan of though. Like Ilios is such a fun map. You get like various play styles you can play on the 3 different maps. You can potentially even run out on a Roadhog on Well. People like doing that nonsense. I doubt we'll see that here tonight, but maybe we will, you know. No, you know, maybe. And then Kings Row, the best map in the game. Who can ever complain about seeing Kings Row?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's just an absolute classic. And then it's always nice to see as well, there are some new maps in the rotation, you know, fairly new in comparison. Runasapi and New Junk City both being something that people don't have nearly as much experience on as Ilios and King Row. So a nice little bit of variety there for what they're going to have coming up. And soon we're going to go ahead and head over to the bans, which might be my most favorite. I think the last time we were on, I talked about this being my favorite part of the new system, the new season that we have is these bans. It gives such an exciting way to play the game. So remind us all, everybody who's watching, what the breakdown is of how you can counter ban each other and close out roles and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so basically the way the ban system works is, in this case, Fellowship Esports are going to get their first choice at a ban. They're going to pick any one of the heroes right now, but any hero that they pick, that hero they can no longer ban that hero again. But say, for instance, they ban Hazard. If the other side would like to ban Hazard on the next map, they can do that on the next map as well. That doesn't get locked out. But for this first map, the tank role would then be locked out. And so Citadel would have to choose either damage or support in terms of banning a hero out.
It's going to be Fellowship banning first, and we'll know what they've got in just a second. It's going to be the Hazard, just like you predicted, the exact example that you used. It is a Hazard ban coming out first, so Fellowship Esports close off the opportunity for any other tanks to be banned. But not only that, Hazard does seem like a fairly confident actual pick. It's not just a throwaway. Hazard can really be dominant for some players that have been finding that skill gap and just taking an early liking to the heroes. So not really a huge surprise that it's getting banned out here. Not what Fellowship wants to play, but now Celestial, they got to look between support and damage and figure out what they want to shut off.
Yeah, and with the Hazard being taken out of the equation now, you have to think, okay, what do the teams want to play now? Maybe they opt for a dive composition here, but maybe if you're Celestial, you don't want to play dive, so you could ban you could ban an Ana, you could ban a Brigida, you know, something to that effect. You could even go so far as to ban a Tracer, but I imagine in this tier, both teams are going to be very confident in their level of Tracer gameplay, so I suspect a support ban is going to be incoming here.
And you predicted right. There's going to be the Kiriko getting banned out by Celestial Knights. So none of the rushdown comps with the Kiriko Lucio going to be played here with that double up on speed, being able to use Lucio's speed and Kiriko's ultimate as well. Not going to be able to double up on that, so going to have to make a little bit of adjustments. I don't think it'll be too detrimental. Juno, of course, still in the mix. It's a little bit hard to ban supports right now because it always feels like there's a replacement.
Yeah, no, for sure. One thing that could potentially be an idea here, so I constantly say Hazard is just Junker Queen that flies around the map, so maybe there's a chance here that Celestial wants to play Junker Queen but doesn't want the cleanse to be available for the Junker Queen ultimate, and so they're just gonna run, like, I don't know, what would go decently with the Lucio here, maybe like a Juno or something, and just go with that with the Junker Queen, something to that effect. Or they could just simply not want to see Kiriko Lucio with a dive composition, like you were saying before. But either one seems like a really solid idea to me.
We'll just have to see what the general idea is here. We are heading into Ilios in just a moment here. We're going to take a look at these teams and their lineups, who they're bringing into the action. And on the side of Celestial Knights, we're going to be starting off with Anax, Moonlight, Bananas, Big Brain, and Hope. So this is a very divey preference that we've got here. All of these players' selections for their favorite heroes, very, very divey, a little bit classic divey. Actually, you can throw this kind of composition way back. So very possible we see some of it.
No, I absolutely love to see Winston played at every opportunity I possibly can. So I'm hoping that we see Winston here tonight. That would be like my hopes and dreams coming true.
Absolutely. And then if we go ahead and take a look at the other side here, we're going to take a look at Fellowship Esports, and that's going to be X, Tempt Me Not, Wolfie, Rambo, and Mr. Manhead. Always very interesting to see two of the same favorite hero on one side. But funnily enough, they're not even the only two players on this team that have Lucio as their favorite hero. So there's plenty of Lucio to be shared around, and we'll just have to see what they go with otherwise, because there is no Kiriko available. Hopefully they've got some Juno in the back pocket to be able to keep it meta and keep it confident, keep it with something strong. A little bit of different styles that they could be going for here. We see the Sojourn there, which has been a strong in and out of the meta kind of hero. Always seems to find a place to still exist. So you never know what you're going to end up seeing, and hopefully it's not going to be a mirror matchup and we get to see which one comes out stronger.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing we see just a straight up mirror in this game with the Hazard being banned out. But like I said before, I wouldn't be surprised to see a team just run the Queen composition, because it's the exact same composition that you run with the Hazard. It's literally identical, so that you could just substitute that in if that's something you want to do. Or, we could see a more dive-heavy composition, which is more along the lines of what I'm expecting. I am definitely expecting to see, like, maybe some Winston on one side, maybe Diva, something like that. But, I can hope.
Yeah, Diva's really picked up in popularity when it comes to the dive for sure. Winston fans are in tears right now over the fact that Diva has picked up so much steam, just become such a reliable counter to some of the things that are going to try to stop your dive, try to slow you down a little bit. Winston just feels a little bit susceptible to not being able to move around anymore after you've made your initial dives. You have to be confident that you're going to be able to take the win, and against some of the heroes that are made to counter at some of the likes of Hazard that can get in your back line without Winston being able to support for about 7-8 seconds. And then the likes of Orisa as well, that's just going to throw a spear, back that Winston up, and just make your dive absolutely useless for a moment. So, yeah, it is tough to be a Winston fan right now, but hopefully we'll be coming back around very soon. Maybe someone will figure something out with the new perks that have been put in place. We're going to be heading into the match very soon, this Masters matchup between Celestial Knights and Fellowship Esports. I am curious if anybody in chat does have a prediction on what we're going to have. Both of these teams are 1-1. One of which we had mentioned, Celestial Knights coming off of a loss, and Fellowship Esports, I believe, being the team to come off a win. Or I may have that flipped, actually. Maybe Knights coming off of a win, Fellowship off of a loss. They're trying to flip that luck. I think it's a tough thing for both teams to prove right now, because when you start off your season even, I think it kind of pushes your confidence down a little bit. But maybe one of these teams is going to lock in harder than the other and take that 1-1 and say, all right, we have to focus and practice more. We're not out of the game yet. It just means we know where our weaknesses lie.
Well, another thing just worth noting as well is this game is going to be very crucial to who's going to make the midseason tournament, because I just have a hard time believing a team with 2 losses is going to be able to make the midseason tournament, because that's after 4 games. So you got 2 losses out of 4 games. You're probably not going to get the opportunity to play against what's going to be the top teams in this tier. And even if you don't necessarily beat those top teams in the tier, it's good to play against them just to have an idea of, where you stand at, what you look like against those teams. So it's like, hey, maybe we get 3-0 against them, but every single map came down to last fight territory, so we know that they're just doing something a little bit better than us every single time, and we need to figure out what exactly that is. So that's another thing that makes this match pretty important tonight.
Yeah, more film equal more better. I think that's what everybody knows. The more that you have to review of your own gameplay, the more you're going to be able to learn, and the better team you go up against, the more high-level gameplay you're going to be able to learn. So, like you mentioned, that mid-season tournament coming up, some of the best Masters players, one of these teams might be able to be one of them. If they can win this game, they're on the road. They just have to take their next one, and then we just may see them in that tournament. So, this is a really important game for them. A lot relies on this, but we are getting ready to head into the game. Our first map, Ilios here. Control going to get us kicked off. Control, such a classic closer, a classic starter. It's always been Overwatch's bread and butter, so we're going to be heading right into that. And here we go. Both teams getting sent back to spawn for the real stuff. And yeah, it looked like we saw a little bit of roll out there on the beginning, but I'm not 100% certain if that's actually what we're going to see. We saw a little bit of Wrecking Ball, a little bit of Lucio.
Yeah, we could be seeing some Wrecking Ball here. We've been seeing some of that in OWCS where teams are playing like Wrecking Ball, Torb, Symmetra. I have a hard time believing we'll see that exactly. But Wrecking Ball is always a valid dive option as well, as long as you know how to play the hero. And I seem to remember one of the people on this team having Widowmaker as their pick. This is a viable Widowmaker map, but looks like we're going to just be seeing dueling Sojourns, and looks like Celestial Knights are going to try and go for that Junker Queen comp like I thought they might, so let's see.
Yeah, going with the Brig as well and the Juno instead of the Lucio Juno. So not focusing, over investing into the speed boosting. Sojourn has so much mobility. The shout from Junker Queen will give a little bit of movement boost as well. Big brain on Juno, going to be able to put that ring down. There's plenty of movement speed addition already. So Hope here is just a very defensive option to make sure that neither of the supports are going to be easy to dive. It's going to be a Sigma on the side of Fellowship, though. Not something that's completely strange to see on Ruins here, particularly. We can see where they're setting up there on the ledge. They're not pushing themselves down yet, but Celestial Knights are already rounding them. They're taking this bridge side and putting out shots from a few different angles. Fellowship have to bunker themselves up, and with the Torb and the Baptiste, you'd think they're going to be able to. They're able to find some eliminations as the approach comes from the bridge side. They attempted to flank, but Celestial Knights aren't going to be able to take the first win unless they find at least one more. Annex was able to find Mr. Manhead, but Rambo is moving this team around, trying to keep the heals up as well. And they will get, not the first cap, but the first sufficient one.
No, I mean, absolutely. Great shots coming out there from X, managing to get a couple of picks there. And I mean, shout out Rambo as well, already being 60% on this ultimate with Lucio. They have to be landing a lot of those Cheerios to get that much ult charge that quickly. I mean, look, Annex already got this Pulse Bomb online as well.
Yeah, Moonlight's takedown to X pretty early, though. And now that Pulse Bomb that you talked about being online, it does get a stick, and it finds a kill on Tempt Me Not. So some steam getting picked up here now by Celestial Knights. Fellowship have to make a retreat. Celestial Knights are going to get control. They're definitely going to even out the percentage, but it looks like Fellowship isn't done yet. They find an elimination onto Hope. That backline that we talked about being so defensive, but they're not really made for long-range fights.
Yeah, that's a tough person to lose. You're really not having much sustain if you don't have the Brig available in this fight. And it looks like Celestial is going to back out knowing that that's the case.
Gonna back out just for the moment. There's only one player standing on the objective right now. Bananas was able to take out the turret, so a little bit of the pressure from afar is going to be cut down. X does have the overclock available, but isn't really in a very solid position right now. Wise not to use it yet. Does find the initial pick onto Annex, and then Fellowship get that sound barrier to keep them up even longer, but it's being torn through right now. Everything getting eliminated, from the turret to the immortality matrix. Now Bananas finding Rambo. I mean, all the utility that you would think would keep them alive, and yet still Fellowship just can't find the eliminations to back up their survivability.
And I mean, the main thing in that whole time, Celestial never let that point flip. They backed up just enough, but never let the point flip, so they had control the entire time. And now, Fellowship does have 4 ultimates online, everything but that sound barrier available, but you're probably going to have to burn most of those to try and capture this point. And Celestial might be able to sustain through a lot of it if they use just an orbital ray or even the rally.
Yeah, and they're getting pushed in too fast before they can even use those ultimates. They get shut down. They're going to have to use them individually. That orbital ray does end up coming down. Not going to protect them against anything, but Wolfie ended up ulting there and dying with the ult active, so didn't get the flux, and nobody's going to be able to touch with how quickly Celestial Knights shut them down. So Knights are going to go ahead and take the first one there, and I'm going to go ahead and handle something real quick while you take us into the next one.
All right, yeah, I mean, shout out Celestial Knights right there. They did a great job of just ulting to keep the tempo in their favor. knowing what the push and pull of the composition was, knowing what range they could play at to not go down to this Sigma. And it's looking like now Wolfie is going to opt to go for the Ramatra mirror, actually. Wait a minute. We're seeing a Winston. A Winston has been spotted. So it looks like Celestial Knights Bananas is going to go on to this Winston pick. We're looking at a Brig Ana as well. I like this because you're going to have the Brig Ana, you're going to have the Sojourn and the Tracer. A lot of mobility with this composition. And for the other side, Tempt Me Not still opting to stay onto that Torbjorn. Oh, wait, Annex going to be going for Echo, actually. I like that. You can burn down a target very quickly with that focusing bam.
Yeah, and not only that, you finally get your Winston as well. Here it is. It's going to be Bananas. What better player? Who more fitting to take that role? And actually putting a lot of pressure on the front, not even playing for the dive early on. Willing to just hold them, stick them to that spot, that little entryway onto the point. Gets them stuck in that position, and that turret is going to be a little bit difficult for Annex to deal with, to find a position on the back line. That turret hidden around the corner, but not if Moonlights can take it out. And not only that, but the opposing Sojourn as well. The DPS are able to just run through the team right now from afar, honestly, not even having to put themselves into dangerous territory.
Yeah, I mean, Fellowship just kind of put themselves into a kill box there, the way that they moved. The entirety of Celestial Knights was just able to surround them. They knew they were all stuck inside that tiny space. So anywhere they tried to walk out of, Bananas was going to try and stuff them right where they were at. And that's exactly what happened, giving your DPS the time to come in and just lay down that damage.
And here's the dive that we were talking about, a nice anti-nade as well. No players end up going down for a moment, but eventually the DPS able to pick up those kills. Bananas does drop, but was it enough? Annex is going to use the duplicate, got it so early and so fast with all those round 1 eliminations, and now finds another one using the Annihilation to take down Wolfie themselves. So only at the 50% here. A lot of ultimates were used from the side of Celestial Knight, but they still have plenty coming on. Sorry, not many ults, but all they had in the tank were used up. So they did give Fellowship a little bit of time to start catching up to them. But honestly, Celestial Knights are still ahead. They were able to snowball that one.
No, absolutely. And I mean, here comes the nano boost and the anti onto the back line. Beautiful play.
Oh, I mean, just clean. There's very little to it. That's all it took was that huge anti. And honestly, all of those are landing right now. It's so deadly. It's been like the one tool that they need to win any team fight ever.
Yeah, I mean, Big Brain showing that they do, in fact, have quite the large brain, landing all of these nice plays right now from the support role. And Celestial Knights managed to hold on to the Primal Rage. They're going to have the Overclock available as well. This has got to be the fight you win if you're Fellowship, though. You're coming up on all 5 of your ultimates. You need to win this fight. This is the last fight, so you absolutely need to win this fight.
Yeah, and already so many of these players going down. Now it's the Primal Rage coming out, knocking some of the players actually onto the point, but Mr. Manhead gets put in dangerous territory where Annex can eliminate them before that sound barrier comes online. Now, the sound barrier gone. Fellowship Esports, all of their health bars just getting ran down. Wolfie trying to do the most to stay alive right now, but not going to be able to find any solid eliminations. It's a wall-riding Lucio of Rambo trying to hold on, and the point was flipped for the moment, but a team fight needs to be won. And with Bananas going absolutely wild on this entire team, doesn't seem like that's going to end up happening. They're going to trickle in one by one. Mr. Manhead ulted and ran right past the window. Didn't even get to use his own utility. They are doing their best to trickle onto the point. The Wrecking Ball's here and the Lucio as well, but no eliminations means no capture. They will all go down. Nobody should be left to touch any longer. This overtime wick gonna tick down. It'll be a 2-0 win for Celestial Knights to take the first map.
And I mean, Celestial Knights just looking absolutely dominant on that first map. They just seem to be playing with a much better tempo and just playing more coordinated as a team. I mean, Big Brain getting the play on this Juno. It's probably this Juno ultimate right here. Yeah, this was a great play to close out the first point.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it takes a big player to get a support play of the game. So, but I mean, we have to be honest there. Celestial Knights, most of those plays, it was really a team effort. A lot of what went into it was really great coordination. And if somebody was using their ult, it was a trigger pull that the entire team was making a decision on. That's what's making them so far ahead of Fellowship Esports right now. It's not that any individual player is playing better. It's the well-organized dives and attacks that they're putting together. You could even see it early on, despite them losing, I would say, half of a team fight in the first engagement on Ruins. They didn't quite lose it all, but they did lose the first engagement. They lost a couple of players and had to back off, but you could see what they were working with. They found out that they were working into a bunker composition, and they made the appropriate changes to be able to swarm that front line, since they knew they weren't going to be able to get to the back line without a lot of pressure from up front.
No, they did a great, fantastic job of that. I mentioned it even at the time, the fact that they didn't give up control of the point. They just gave up their, sort of their positioning a little bit. They just kind of backed off, left one person there to touch so that they did not lose any of that percentage. And that's just being more objective focused as opposed to kill focused. And that's what will show a big difference between the two teams for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, honestly, if Fellowship Esports can change something up with the new style of play as we head into Hybrid very shortly. We're going to be heading on over to King's Row, a map that I know you are very excited to see, one of your favorites. You always do praise this map whenever we're headed to it. Just one of the Overwatch classics, as you say, one of the best of all time. So very excited to see if a change of style here. I think both teams are going to change up the way they're playing at least a little bit, if not in composition, then certainly in actual style. The way that they're going to play a dive composition, or the longer holds that they're going to have with a more brawly composition like a Ramatra. If a Sigma comes out here, I'd actually be curious to see if that's kind of a specialty for Fellowship, something that their tank and maybe their entire team works on pretty well. But otherwise, I do think we know what to expect from King's Row. The only other thing I could see really coming out that would change the way it's played is Mauga, to really change up the comps.
They could definitely do something along those lines. I mean, we could see something as nice as a Widowmaker. People love playing Widowmaker on King's Row. There's just so many different angles you can push from. But the Celestial Knights are going to be banning first here. And, I'm just trying to think. What do you... Oh, Fellowship. Okay, Fellowship going first. If you're Fellowship, what do you want to ban out here? What really gave you some problems last map? And it was just mostly team coordination. So I'm having a hard time thinking, what do you ban Ana? Like, I don't know. I'm not too sure what you go for here as Fellowship. It was more coordination than actual individual heroes that were giving you huge issues.
Yeah, I do think that you made a good mention with the Ana there. Actually, it was a great call, because they are going to ban out the Ana. I was going to say the other option that I could see is Juno. They'll definitely be locking down the support category, because it was that long survivability in team fights that really threw them for a loop. Typically, playing a bunker composition or anything more defensive, you should be surviving longer. You should be able to hold out a long fight and win the long game, but it was surprisingly Celestial Knights that were able to do so, even fighting into a more bunker-style composition. So you have to ban out some of the supports that were giving you trouble for sure. Ana or Juno, I think the Juno is a little more versatile, but I can understand with a lot of straightaways and corners to play around here on King's Row why Ana would be a little bit suspect. You might expect that could come out and really cause issues for you.
Now I could be crazy here. I saw a lot of Torbjorn on that last map.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if Celestial Knights just bans Torbjorn just because they don't want to deal with the turret. Like, who likes dealing with the turret? Reinhardt ban. That's disgraceful. I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know you could do that. That seems targeted. Well, wow. All right, gonna ban out the Reinhardt on King's Row. So no fun allowed, I guess, here. Reinhardt and Ana both getting banned out. Is it 2019? Did I miss something? What are we doing on King's Row?
Oh my goodness, we're not playing brawl comps apparently. Maybe we're gonna play Ramatras again, but nobody likes to play Reinhardt anymore. I guess maybe it's just me. I'm the only person.
Oh no, I am right there with you. There's a difference between having fun and getting all the wins you can. Sometimes it's just better to have some fun, and playing Reinhardt makes every tank player feel like, a demigod in their own right. So a little bit upsetting to see the Reinhardt get banned just as tank players ourselves, but hey, listen, Celestial Knights just don't want to see it, all right? Fellowship, on the other hand, I think they have a very valid reason for banning out that Ana. They absolutely do not want to be running down something that's going to cause them so much trouble. They can deal with the Juno. They can maybe even use it to their own advantage, but they're certainly not going to do so with the Ana. we're going to have to find out what it is they're going to be picking because we're headed into King's Row. So this hybrid map 2 going to get started. Celestial Knights, if they win this one, they'll put themselves on a match point. Fellowship, if they win this one, they're tying it up and asking for the long game to get played. I don't know. If you're on Fellowship's side here, do you think you can hold out the long game against Celestial Knights if you take more maps?
It's very much within the realm of possibility. You just need to take honestly, you just need to take a fight first if you're Fellowship. Before we start talking about a map, we need to take a fight. We take a fight, then we can snowball that further. But let's focus on winning one fight first if we're the team. That's where my head would be at least. I'd be like, okay, let's just focus on winning this first fight. Let's do all that we can to get the first fight out of the way so that we can snowball it into eventually taking this. But again, tempt me not going on this Torb again. This must be like a specialty pick. They just like playing Torb a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's only going to get better, too. Tempt Me Not's going to have even more reasons to play it when those perks do kick in, especially on a map like this. Being able to throw that turret up so high and stick it to a wall, just treat it like a Symmetra turret. You never know what direction to look in, but this turret takes way, way bigger shots. So it's going to be the Cassidy and the Torbjorn here defensively, or sorry, offensively for Fellowship. I am curious how they're going to play this Torb offensively.
Can you imagine like when Torb gets the ability to heal armor with his hammer? You're just like beating a Ramatra that's got his hands up blocking, and it's just like he's getting healed and beat with the hammer. It's like, how you gonna kill him?
Yeah, that's luckily we don't have to worry about that this week. Moonlights has done a great job of shutting down these turrets as they go up here. Banana's shutting down X as well, so it's going to be a lot of quick falls here for Fellowship. The defense is going to hold fairly strong, and Annex here on the Mei actually closing out the supports, not allowing them to retreat. It's a nice attempt from Fellowship to come in and help their teammates, but it only results in more of them dropping. They're going to head right back to spawn, and I just don't know if that Torbjorn has a comfortable spot to get the turret set up on an attack here.
No, it's a tough thing to try and get off. Annex already going to have this Blizzard available in this fight. There's no way that Fellowship is ready for that. And again, Celestial's not just allowing Fellowship to rotate wherever they want to. Bananas came in on the flank immediately when they tried to walk through this hotel last time.
Oh, and that ice wall doesn't end up catching anything. They actually push in instead, but there's a blizzard inside. A really nice immortality field does go up, but it's not enough to save the life of just about anyone. Annex ends up going down in the fight, so they need to find this late stagger kill onto the Ramatra. Wolfie does go down, but there's still going to be a full recoup from Fellowship before Annex gets back to the point. Big Brain's going to head all the way back to try and speed boost him up.
Well, and again, it's just the same thing I was saying last time. Celestial is just playing at such a faster tempo than Fellowship is, and you can just see it. Anytime Fellowship's trying to rotate, Celestial is just right there, ready to cut them off, drop an ultimate, drop Ramatra punches, poke them out like they are right now, trying to rotate across this high ground.
And once again, Moonlights takes out that turret early on. This was the position that you wanted to see Tempt actually try to set it up. And even still, now that turret's on cooldown once again, a wall to cut off the supports on the high ground actually gives enough time for Annex to find an elimination on the X. So a really well-timed play. Celestial Knights don't just have the teamwork, they've got the individual player skill as well. Now an annihilation from Bananas trying to find some extra damage, but gets taken down in the middle of it by Wolfie, who hasn't even used that annihilation yet, hasn't even built it up. Just takes them down on their own. Now Tempt maybe going to try to find something here. Actually, it does look like Fellowship are pushing back into this when they haven't let themselves drop. Yeah, that's going to be it. No annihilation, no more tank. That means that'll be it for the push, and Fellowship are able to finally win that team fight you were asking for and go ahead and get a cap on A.
Yeah, and that's the first step, right, to getting, further and further along on this map. Celestial got a little overconfident there, and they split way too hard. Bananas was just so far removed from everybody else, and then getting stuck on the staircase as well. Bananas probably actually gets away with their life in that fight if they don't get stuck on that staircase. I've been there before. That is a tough spot to be at.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, man, what a vortex there. I mean, that caught everybody. That just feels good, even though it didn't get anything from it. The wall there, once again, the Blizzard ends up going down, and weirdly enough, while the wall didn't cut anybody off, it was still enough to get that Blizzard down for them to not know where the position was, and it shuts down Fellowship, but it's an ultimate committed to a choke point where the fights are meant to be longer.
I really like it when you're playing a brawl comp to try and force the fight right here in this choke. It gives you like a nice little angle you can try and hide behind and still get healed up by your whole team and everything. And now Celestial Knights, they have this overclock available and they can pop that in the middle of this fight.
Ooh, yeah, but it's going to be an annihilation from Wolfie, the one that's been stored up for so long. Now the arms are up, trying to mitigate some damage. If there's an overclock out on the field, it's only able to find an immortality matrix, and somehow, some way, Wolfie was able to stay alive in that fight. Moonlight's the only survivor from the side of Celestial Knights, trying not to get picked off here. Going to try to get that health pack. No, going to get back to the team instead. Like Neo in the Matrix, avoiding that shot across. That was an actually really well-placed shot from X, but it does not find the elimination, and Celestial Knights are going to get to hold this one before there's a touch.
Yeah, we're going to see another fight come in. Fellowship's going to have their Deadeye, the Molten Core, and the Sound Barrier available to them, while Celestial Knights are going to have both support ults available. And I have to imagine that they're going to engage with this Orbital Ray here shortly.
Yeah, it is still difficult to beat that Deadeye, though, with any of these ultimates. And now it's an Immortality Matrix going down. The Orbital Ray is in there, but somehow Rambo able to kill Big Brain through it. Moonlights does take advantage, finds elimination onto X, but Tempt has covered the cart. It's going to be really hard for Celestial Knights to fight here. Bananas is attempting this annihilation, but gets taken down even with the arms up. It's back and forth, but Fellowship come out in top with just a few more players. They might be able to push this one to the end, but because of how many players they're lacking, it may be a brawl.
Yeah, here we go. Here comes the touch in from Moonlight. Nice shot taking down Rambo.
Yeah, eliminates Rambo and gets that rally up as well. Confident enough to say that they can take this fight at this point. Doesn't have the bash yet. Decides not to go for the backline. Plays it conservative. Knows that the team wasn't there yet. Now you have your frontliner. Tempt Me Not. No turret. Not going to be able to add any additional damage. A really good job pushing past the damage matrix to make sure they couldn't find any use out of it. So Fellowship have thrown that one away. They have no more support ults. And Celestial Knights do stabilize before the second point. But Fellowship were actually able to snowball a couple fight wins there.
They did. They got it down here to the end of second point. This is a tough ask, though, for Fellowship. They got no ultimates. They're looking at an overclock and a blizzard, and this is most likely going to be last fight territory. By the time you get up to this point, there's going to be about 20 seconds left, maybe. And then if you lose that fight to a blizzard, that's pretty much going to be it. So Annex here just setting up for this blizzard, going to catch it the whole team with it.
Yeah, without the sound barrier online, that blizzard looks really, really scary. And it does go down. It freezes out Rambo, so there's definitely going to be no blizzard. Wolfie able to help with that elimination on Annex, but gets taken down themselves. Now you don't have your frontliner. With the last 10 seconds of the game, another turret will drop. It's just going to be Tempt Me Not, trying to put out damage here. A little bit of assistance from their fellow DPS, but there won't even be a touch. The overclock is out. Doesn't need to find the elimination. A respectable amount of distance from Fellowship, but Celestial Knights have set themselves a decent win condition.
Yeah, Celestial Knights, great job getting that last second touch. I mean, it seemed like they noticed, because what I was noticing in the middle of that first match, in the middle of that first round, was that it seemed like Rambo was doing such a good job of peeling on any person that was going for the backline, and that Lucio was actually getting a lot of eliminations in the middle of those fights. So the two fights there towards the end, Celestial Knights ended up winning. They took down Rambo first, and it just immediately seemed to shut down Fellowship Esports almost immediately. Like it was crazy to see how much impact that Lucio actually was having for Fellowship.
Yeah, and I mean, how, like, just next level, I guess, from Celestial Knights to actually be able to pick that weakness that they had, their ability to approach the backline, especially with all the time that immortality field gave to Fellowship to be able to get rid of the threats in the backline, like you mentioned with Rambo. What a great adjustment from Celestial Knights. I mean, it's something that you typically wait until you get to the semi-pro or professional level to really be seeing teams make mid-game adjustments like that. You have to know each other so well and be able to communicate so well. It's amazing that Celestial Knights were able to pick off that weakness in their own attack and then hold based off that adjustment.
Well, yeah, I mean, Annex catches how many players was it? It was like 3 or 4 players with a blizzard. Who do they get? Rambo. That's the only kill they get off the blizzard, and it rolls the fight into a win for Celestial. It's like they just can tell that, like, that's the problem character right now. We need to deal with it.
Yeah, now they're going for another well-coordinated play, which is going to be that sim teleporter all the way up to the high ground. No Widowmaker waiting in the wings. This is not going to be a sure 4-level play here, but Moonlight taking out that turret at this point. It's just a detriment to be playing that Torbjorn, a well-timed Immortality Matrix, but it still can't save Mr. Manhead. Only player to drop from Fellowship so far, but they eventually begin to trade out because of the respawn advantage. This one is obviously going to end up going the way of Celestial Knights eventually, or at least you'd have to think. Those sim turrets are up in a tricky spot, and one of them still hasn't been taken out, so it's going to be hard to approach. Even with the amount of time Rambo spent near the point, still wasn't really contesting, so they didn't stall that out very much. Now all you get is a late spawn. Thankfully, he has the speed boost.
No, I mean, if you're a Lucio, that's like the two worst heroes that could have been sitting there waiting for you. You got a Brig that can hit you, like, no matter what. Like, they don't, and you got a Sojourn that's going to pop you out of the air if you even jump one time. So that's just an unlucky for Rambo. Not really contestable.
Yeah, and it's rough to fight into somebody as accurate as Moonlight here as well. Moonlight does have the overclock available. Maybe going to wait for the shield to drop down. That just got put up. We'll see if it's going to get activated. They are hiding around the corner right now, so maybe not. Yes, it's going to get activated. Taking shots at the front line. Wolfie's going to put the arms up to try to mitigate it, but there's so much damage going out. That form is eventually going to drop, and when it does, Wolfie goes down. Now they're pushing up toward that golden box of victory. The payload isn't quite there yet, but the players are. They're looking to be able to push this one all the way up. They can push so far forward. Everyone gets eliminated. It's pretty much a team kill.
Yeah, you're still going to have one more fight if you're Fellowship Esports. You have the ultimates here to win this next fight. What you have to do here is not burn all of them, because now you're like, okay, we have to play for 4.5 minutes for one fight over and over and over again. So we have to cycle these ults properly. We can't just burn everything all at one time.
Yeah, and you have to think the engagement here is going to be something like the beat, and it is. It's actually going to be both of the support ultimates used, so you have to try to conserve everything else, but how can you when the Annihilation is starting to rip through your backline? They are able to get the elimination, but they had to use both DPS ults for it, and it still won't come to anything. Finally, an Annihilation comes out from Wolfie, able to find 2 there. There's only 1 player remaining. They just may have held, but it cost them absolutely everything. They are on 0, and Big Brain takes the 1v1 with the tank player to close that one out. So it doesn't matter. All the ults could not beat the Juno. Maybe you should rethink your bans next time.
Big Brain getting another play of the game on Juno once again.
Man.
Probably another orbital ray. No, this is just a mid-fight shooting into people.
Yeah, this was the end of the round right here is what this was. This was very well earned. All the healing that they did, keeping their teammates alive, and then found some eliminations there in the end as well. Yeah, I mean, it's not just the healing that gets you play of the game. Sometimes you got to go big as a support to earn it, and that's 2 in a row now. Very impressive.
No, I'm absolutely impressed by Celestial Knights. They looked like they were about to start losing some ground there on King's Row. Made that mid-round adjustment, started playing a little bit differently, and Fellowship just didn't really have a response for it on their attack or on their follow-up defense.
That's right. Now Fellowship, while they've been improving and they are showing the ability to snowball some fights into close to map victories, we are going to go to a short break, let everybody catch a breather, and we're going to see on the other side of it if Fellowship can actually start to push themselves to some map wins here and start turning the tide of this game. We'll see you on the other side of a short break. Stay right there. All right, welcome back in, everybody. As you can see on the bottom there, it is already 2-0 here for this match in the Masters tier between Celestial Knights and Fellowship Esports. But things still have the potential to turn around. Fellowship Esports have been starting to pick it up, starting to make reads on Celestial Knights. Possible that they could pull something together here to make it happen on push. Of course, I am still Speedy, and this is still Shadow Fang. Shadow, based on what we've been seeing so far, do you have any predictions for bans or the way this next map is going to end up going?
I mean, if you're Celestial Knights, I'm not sure how you don't ban Torbjorn at this point, unless you're just wanting them to continue to play Torbjorn, because I'm just curious what Tempt Me Not would play if Torbjorn was banned. That's just my personal curiosity. Like, I would just like to see what would happen. But, because otherwise, I'm not sure what hero's really been giving you any issues if you're Celestial Knights, right? We saw them ban Reinhardt in the last game. And, I mean, I'm expecting Fellowship to ban Juno now. Right? We've seen them ban Kiriko. We've seen them ban Ana. I expect Juno to come through this time. I don't really see another pick that has been super scary for you. It's just whatever hero Big Brain is playing seems to be giving them massive issues map after map.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analysis of it, honestly. They're like target banning one particular player, but the Juno, I think, is a really solid way to go. The Lucio as well, honestly, I think we talked about the way it had been giving them issues throughout that last game, but also they had been able to cause some damage with it, so it makes sense that they wouldn't want to ban it out. Fellowship actually found themselves some success with Lucio, so it's going to be the Brig instead that they end up banning, showing no wish to use it here on Runasapi. Likely going to go with something more like a Lucio Juno or Lucio Kiriko instead. It all depends on what they want to end up playing. But now Celestial Knights have the opportunity, and with all the wins they've been taking, maybe it'll just be the Torb.
It could be something like that. Or they could ban like one of the rush tanks. Maybe they ban Ramatra. We've been seeing a ton of Ramatra being played so far. But, you know, we know Bananas is incredibly good at Winston as well, and I would imagine other heroes, since Winston is one of those. To me, Winston is like a higher skill cap character, so if you can play Winston, you can probably play most of the other tanks on this roster very, very well. I'd have a hard time believing. Like, if you told me somebody can play Winston incredibly well and can't play Orisa incredibly well, I'd be shocked. But we see the Ashe ban come through, actually.
Okay, a little bit, I don't think it's targeted. I think that's just a map-specific ban. There's definitely a lot of straightaway sightlines here to be able to work that Ashe or really any sniper or long-distance semi-auto style of heroes. So probably going to be the Sojourns getting played here on both sides. If the Ashe isn't available, that would be my guess. But we'll see. Some teams prefer to opt for weaving in and out of the buildings at different points on the push line, with things like the Sombra and the Tracer, no matter what the push map is. So we'll just have to see as we head into it. But only a little bit longer before we head into Runasapi push, and Celestial Knights looking to close it out there. Fellowship Esports, they got a lot of work to do if they want to bring it back in this one. So it's going to require snowballing. Celestial Knights have already shown the ability to snowball fights out of control. So far, Fellowship, only one time we saw them able to do that.
Yeah, we saw them take a couple of fights back to back on King's Row, but then were promptly shut down right after that. So, you know, I really think like I don't think Fellowship is going to continue to do anything other than just play the Ramatra again. I've seen no evidence to the contrary so far. So I would honestly just expect the Ramatra to come out, but this time I would like to see a May as well because I just think May is so strong with the brawl comps. You can get ult incredibly fast, get up to that blizzard, and it's a lot better at trying to deny a dive, if you will, playing May as opposed to playing like Sojourn or something.
And you make a good point. It's going to be style dependent here. We've seen a little bit more flexibility from the side of Celestial than we have from Fellowship. Fellowship may be going to stick with that Ramatra, as you mentioned. Another way to play the Rush would be Junker Queen, but neither of these teams have really wanted to play that so far. The Mauga, always an available option on push. You can really get things out of control, just stand right up front and be a real big wall to soak up damage. But I don't know that that's really how either of these tanks play. They're both very aggressive tank-style players, so we'll just have to see. It looks like we're going to be stalling it out for just a little bit longer. But with the hero bans that we did end up seeing, particularly the Brig, do you think, because the Ashe, we already know how that's going to affect it, but the Brig in particular, do you think it's going to affect either of these teams or both of them maybe?
Well, oddly enough, I think Celestial Knights are going to come out on the Hazard finally. So I don't think Brig was ever really a thing they were going to play on this map. I think Fellowship was trying to deny the Ana Brig Winston dive, but that's not typically a comp we tend to see on Runasapi. Runasapi is more like there's not as many high grounds to go climb up and dive on top of and whatnot. So I would expect, just because again, I saw the Kiri Lucio, I saw the Sojourn Genji, Hazard fits right into that. We could see the Junker Queen as well, but why not play Hazard? It's just Junker Queen that can jump. So I would predict to see the Hazard going into what is most likely going to be the Ramatra from Fellowship.
Would be very interesting to finally see it because there's been an avoidance of Hazard, weirdly enough. It's almost like teams have been expecting the Hazard ban so much that they've just been forming compositions around everything else. So, well, if we take a look at that, if this is to come to fruition, we not only have a Lucio Kiriko finally, but also might have a Junker Queen. No, it's going to be the Ramatra swap. When I saw the Junker Queen standing just behind the spawn point line, I knew that it probably wasn't going to stay. What I do like here from Annex, though, is the Genji. I think that this is going to be really, really threatening to the back line and force Mr. Manhead and Rambo to move around. Now, if they can stay mobile, the Fellowship back line, I think that they're going to be able to make Annex actually a little bit useless.
No, absolutely. It's going to be tough to get like the big time value on the Genji here. Just because the Ram kind of has to deal with this Reinhardt. The Reinhardt's not just going to let you go into the back line as the Ramatra. And you're seeing here, they're just getting poked out by all this spam damage coming in already.
Yeah, and now we're starting to understand why the Reinhardt ban as well from Celestial Knights. They had scouted their enemies. Wolfie50 here playing the Reinhardt. It is a hero that they seem to be proficient on. Rambo does find an early elimination on Annex, and who else but Rambo? I mean, one of the best defensive Lucios that we've seen in quite a while, especially in the Masters division. In the tank versus tank, though, Bananas does come out on top, and that's really, really rough for the rest of the team. Bananas has to be careful not to overextend into the DPS. It got dangerous there for a moment, but Moonlights was able to eliminate Rambo, and now it forces Fellowship to push back.
That shield by Bananas was crucial right there. Then it came up just in time to save them from going down. Big Brain, closest one on Ultimate right now. Both Kirikos actually well into the 70%. So we're probably going to see some dueling Kitsune rushes somewhere in the mid-fight of this.
Yeah, and it's a little bit tough to see which team's going to benefit from that more at this point. They do race up to the other side of the map to take down Moonlights, and they're able to push it into elimination on a Hope as well. Annex does find their direct counter in X. Bananas goes awfully low, is able to get healed up, but will eventually be eliminated. So Fellowship, while they do bleed players, they still will be able to take a team fight as long as they turn this one around. Annex is going to grab just a couple of extra meters for a moment, push it past the 40 mark, and then we'll get out of dodge.
Annex said, hey, if we're going to lose the point anyways, I may as well get a few more meterage. And, I mean, they still managed to get out at full HP, so they're just going to reset with their team. Really, no harm in that. whatsoever. Rambo being so far ahead on this sound barrier charge, though, might end up proving very crucial because you're just looking at so many ultimates available for Celestial Knights, and sound barrier can counter a lot of that.
Yeah, one thing that's really scary here would be the Kitsune Rush and Blade, but like you mentioned, there's a Kitsune Rush on the other side and, of course, a Sound Barrier to really counter that. So here's the Kitsune Rush from Big Brain. It's not going to be countered just yet. Not going to be worked into. Fellowship Esports have survived thus far. A big Shatter is going to find 2 eliminations and a quick wipe of the rest of the team. So now Fellowship can push this bot up and maybe take the lead. It's a full team kill. The entirety of Celestial Knights will be on respawn.
I've said this quite a few times. Ramatra is a trap counter for Reinhardt, right? You can get the punches through, but Reinhardt has the freest shatter known to man against a brawl composition, and that can be a team-wiping ultimate like we just saw right there if it's timed correctly.
Here we go. Fellowship Esports in the lead as they start to take this next fight. Reinhardt saving the shield for a bit, just playing around the edges. There's an EMP online, but it's not going to be used just yet. Tempt Me Not is going to lose the duel to Moonlights, and Bananas is going to go huge with the Annihilation. Some would even say that he ended up going bananas with it. Going to let the Annihilation take out Wolfie there. That'll be a team kill, and now an attempt to take the lead from Celestial Knights. But by the time they get this bot around, we might see a contest first from Fellowship.
That's kind of funny how Wolfie pinned Bananas away, and the residual just air damage that Ramatra's ultimate does is what got the kills there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised Sound Barrier didn't come out there for Fellowship, because now you're looking at a fight for essentially checkpoint right here. Hopefully you can manage to get the touch before that if you're Fellowship. And it looks like we forgot the bot.
They don't get the touch, but the bot gets forgotten, so it's not going to be a lead just yet. There's an attempt to stop it right here. Tempt was able to get the EMP off, but the DPS for Celestial are able to find some pretty quick kills. I mean, this is unlikely going to be a one fight. They have to deal with the Reinhardt here, but they have just barely taken the lead. They're going to get the first checkpoint, and they're even going to push a little further.
Yeah, that Fellowship split entirely too hard right in the middle of that fight. Everybody was just off in different corners of the map, and when that happens, you're putting like the Genji and the Sojourn at a major advantage by doing so. With Reinhardt, your advantage is to stay with the Reinhardt and go on whoever the Reinhardt is going on, because those swings do so much damage.
Is a lot at a time, and Annex gets a little bit too brave there. Tries to take the fight and Tempt Me Not switch onto the Torbjorn. It has come out, and it is doing the damage, pushing them away by only finding one elimination. Smart from Celestial Knights to back off of that one, knowing they have the lead.
Absolutely. You can afford to give this up. You can go for the fight here at the midpoint. Even if you lose this fight, you're still only going to get the checkpoint, and Annex probably looking for this blade right here, I imagine.
Yeah, but has to get out quickly, so it gives a little bit of time to Fellowship to actually be able to hold this one. And Bananas is looking a little bit low, has to whip out the Kitsune just to keep him alive, but still goes down. Wolfie finds that elimination. You mentioned how much damage there is. Annex gets the blade out, but gets taken down by X. So now it's just up to the rest of the team to drop one by one. All the ultimates that were available were committed. Now it's going to be up to Bananas and Moonlight to try to put out a lot of damage and stop Fellowship from taking a lead.
I don't know. I gotta be honest. From what I just saw there, I think Genji needs another nerf. He almost got that blade. He almost got that blade fully out at 80 HP. Like, he might need to be nerfed. Like, I don't know. I don't know. We're seeing a shatter online for Wolfie, and again, like I said, the second that shield comes up from Ramatra, that's the only thing stopping this shatter from knocking down anybody behind them. X getting another pick onto Annex, though, just absolutely dominant on this cast.
That is not supposed to be countered that way. It's supposed to be the other way around. But as you mentioned, on this Cassidy, very, very dominant. More eliminations from Fellowship mean a definite lead coming through for them. Now it is in the hands of Celestial. They still have the same two. They were barely able to even build up ultimate percentage on anybody other than Hope in that fight.
Yeah, and I mean, you didn't burn any ultimates, but you did lose X, so that's going to be tough. This is probably going to fall down onto Wolfie and Mr. Manhead. They're going to have to probably combo both of these ultimates just to try and get some picks out if they want to continue pushing.
Yeah, and it took a while for Celestial to actually contest as well, even after they found the elimination. So it's past 100 meters for Fellowship. I'm not sure they should have given up that much, Celestial. They could have stopped that at around the 90 mark. They even commit ultimates to the fallback from Fellowship. So Celestial are feeling the pressure. They're actually starting to put out more than they need to guarantee fights, and they're not thinking about their future win conditions.
Oh, and I mean, that's a W if you're Fellowship right there. You get, like you mentioned, the overclock comes out while you're running away. You've decided not to commit any ultimates, and you get an ultimate out for free. Bananas has this annihilation available, but I'm going to keep saying Wolfie can immediately stop it with a shatter if they want to, or they can just hold their shield up and, they have a Lucio too. Oh, nice shatter.
Really big shatter. It does find one. The pin comes through to get rid of some of that sound barrier, but X with a double kill on the Deadeye. Gonna keep Fellowship in the lead on this one, and they're gonna be able to hold it. Not a single meter gained for Celestial in that push, even after using more ultimates. Now they have nothing online. Big Brain is gonna have to earn the Kitsune, and even then, you're working into being outnumbered on ults.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna mirror the Kitsune if you're Fellowship. I have a hard time believing you don't just do that. Maybe you engage with it early here, but even if you don't, again, you can just mirror it. Tempt Me Not has this Molten Core available, and the way X has been shooting, they'll have another Deadeye by the end of this fight.
Yeah, and Tempt has a really good way to slow down a Kitsune on the other side as well here. Wolfie tries to get away there. Interestingly enough, the lava does end up getting used, but it's not going to come out to very much. It's kind of going to go by the wayside. Rambo still able to find eliminations here, actually becoming a DPS despite losing the front line early. Fellowship are able to push themselves back in using only one ultimate, and they still have the Kitsune online.
Yeah, I mean, they traded out Bananas for Wolfie, so you're kind of happy to just start taking those engagements there. And what we've seen from Rambo is a DPS Lucio. They are really good at getting these kills. Moonlight's taking down Mr. Manhead, though, probably means Fellowship's going to have to retreat.
They're going to start pushing back a little bit. Bananas goes down again. Wolfie does as well. Annex is able to stay alive in this one, and the eliminations come through quickly enough. It's a team kill, but there's only a minute left on the clock. Fellowship still have a heavy ultimate advantage. Celestial Knights have not been able to take advantage of any ult rotations.
I mean, absolutely. You've got a Blade available. You're about to come up on an overclock as well if you're Celestial. Rambo does have this sound barrier online. And X has the Deadeye as well, which can stop Genji in his tracks, where he has to sit there and deflect, or he's probably just going to die of the Deadeye. So there are multiple ways to stop this Blade from happening. And Wolfie about to come up on this Shatter as well, and now you've got Junker Queen. You really have nothing to stop the Shatter.
Yeah, Bananas has engaged with the Junker Queen. It's a Blade coming out from Annex, but a sound barrier to counter. Still able to find the elimination onto Wolfie, but gets caught by X's Deadeye, so it's a little bit of back and forth here. Moonlight finds Mr. Manhead after Manhead takes out Hope. Tempt Me Not finds Bananas. It's real back and forth. Only 20 seconds remain in the match. Whoever wins this fight could take the lead for the entire game, and it's Fellowship right now that sit on that lead. They don't have to push the bot any further. They can regroup, and they have a Shatter online.
They have the Shatter. Hope needs to build up this sound barrier. That's probably the only thing you're going to be able to get if you're Celestial Knights. You're not really close on anything else. And like you said, Wolfie having that Shatter available means you need to probably stay away from Bananas as much as you can, or you're going to get a huge Shatter off.
Yeah, Bananas needs to put frontline pressure on their own. There's no beat to stop it right now. You have to try to get Hope to have the sound barrier online, but that's so much damage early into Bananas. Annex is low as well. It's hard to put that pressure. It's hard to hold that bot when those players in particular are low. Fellowship haven't been able to get any eliminations yet, but now that Celestial Knights have to push around the corner, the beat comes out in time. A deep charge from Wolfie. Luckily doesn't end up getting eliminated. The save from oh my goodness, I'm at a loss for words. I apologize. The Fellowship do end up taking the win. All of the eliminations were coming through on the side. It was so hard to keep up. Fellowship actually find the eliminations in the end to keep it up.
So just to give an idea of what kind of just happened right there, Wolfie manages to shatter both supports. The sound barrier comes out, but shattering both supports means that no more healing is coming in outside of the sound barrier. And the side of Fellowship realizes that, so they immediately burn down the first target in front of them. And it just so happens that they get two targets at that same time. And by the time both of your supports are standing back up, there's nobody to heal anymore. So they just win the map out.
Well, Fellowship are on their way. Push is always the map that it seems like goes to the team that has proven themselves to be more dominant because they can snowball things out of control. But Fellowship have proven that that may be the one thing they're actually good at, is keeping a good ult rotation and making sure that they can push one fight win into another fight win. It's only when Celestial Knights can finally find one shutdown on them that they might be able to turn that around. It's not as if Fellowship were able to push that one all the way to the end, but they just had more opportunities to snowball their fights and build their ultimates. They end up taking the win on push, and now Celestial Knights, they're still on match point, but it's going to get tougher now that Fellowship have a read on them.
Yeah, and I mean, the Reinhardt can't be banned out anymore, so if that's what Fellowship wants to play, you can do it for the rest of the series. Now, what you can do, if you're Celestial Knights and you don't want to see the Reinhardt necessarily again, you could try and ban Lucio, but then you wouldn't have Lucio either, so maybe the
Mhm.
Reinhardt still comes out and we just run at each other in slow motion instead. That could be a possibility. Or we might just see a Rhine duel potentially. If you just know the Rhine's going to come out, I don't know a tank player that isn't happy to take a Rhine duel when they know what's going on both sides.
Yeah, it's called having fun in Overwatch, and tank players are the only ones who are allowed to do it anymore. New Junk City coming up next should be exciting. A lot of brawl we're going to be seeing. This is not going to be a very divey match for the most part.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, as much as we love to see it, not going to happen. So, a lot of brawl going to still be coming out. It's the name of the game with the recent meta in Overwatch. Who knows? That may change. A lot of new things coming up. There might be more than one meta at a time. Will be very interesting to get a read on that. But for now, just trying to keep themselves in this one, our Fellowship, and it's all going to start with the bans between them and Celestial Knights. This will be
Mhm.
the first time since map 1 that Celestial Knights are going to get the first ban. So it's going to be up to them to start pushing it in their favor. Like you mentioned, no more Reinhardt bans. They're going to have
Yep.
to find another target. Maybe, just maybe, we will finally see that Torbjorn get targeted
You
down.
know, there is a good reason to do it now. And I mean, it's like I said, we saw Tempt play some Sombra there for a little while, but then they went back to the Torb for the majority of that map. So I mean,
Mhm.
what do? You probably should ban the Torbjorn if you're Celestial.
Yeah.
Just try and wrap this up in a 3-1 fashion and get rid of the Torbjorn because Tempt is an unknown outside of that character. At least for right now, they're an unknown outside of the character. Maybe they come out and they actually have a May on them. Maybe that's
Mhm.
what we see this map, and they've just chosen to play Tor because they like throwing the turret down, they like the molten core, all those sorts of things. But otherwise, I don't see what you ban here outside of like maybe you ban a Baptiste. But I mean, we just saw them run Kiriko Lucio with the Reinhardt, so I don't know. It's a tough ask here for Celestial if you're not banning Torb.
Honestly, it might be time to go for the danger pick. You might want to ban out that Lucio. I think that Torbjorn, while it's been prevalent during their
Hmm.
problems, it hasn't really been the source of their problems. Moonlights has been so good about targeting down that turret and making sure there's
Hmm.
no extra damage coming out. I actually think they've dealt with it well enough where you allow them to keep playing the
Yeah.
Torbjorn, continue to counter it, maybe play the dangerous game, get rid of the Lucio, say that and understand that you're going to suffer for it. But now it's going to be the Torb. You shake it up, put them on a hero that they're less comfortable with than the
Yeah.
very fun Torbjorn. See
Yeah.
if you can find a win out of it.
Well, I'm thinking like they want to play Lucio themselves, do
Hmm.
Celestial, so that's why they're not going to ban it out. But I completely agree with you. Rambo, I got to see Rambo's final blows like on average for
Yeah.
this series because they've just been getting kill after kill after kill on that Lucio. Like anytime you think a fight is potentially going the way of Celestial, you're going to see Rambo get at least a kill or two on their way out. That's how it seems to go at least.
Does seem to be going that way, but now it is going to be tank or support that will be banned out by
Hmm.
Fellowship. One of the big things that you've been seeing is that Ramatra from the side of Celestial so far. It is a big tank. Tank bans can be brutal because there's only one player playing tank on either side. So if you ban out something that they're good enough at, then you're always target banning when you ban tank. Support, on the other hand, still a lot of options,
Yeah.
but I feel like Fellowship do better when they have more available to them.
If you want to ban a tank here and you want to play Reinhardt, I think you just ban Orisa. I don't want to deal with
Mhm.
Orisa as a Rein. Okay, they banned Ramatra. I thought they dealt with the Ramatra very well, but
Mhm.
I guess they just don't want to deal with it at all, which I mean makes sense. Fair enough.
Seems kind of like the answer to both sides, right? Is just ban out something you're tired of dealing with to try to
Yeah.
get into the groove of your own game. I actually think both of these bans set these teams in a place where they can start to play to their own strengths now, and they don't have to worry about each other and what they're bringing that's a little bit difficult to deal
Hmm.
with. Yes, they dealt with the Ramatra, but think about how much effort it takes from the players as a whole to coordinate being able
Hmm.
to counter the Ramatra. You are relying on your tank player to get that shatter, and then even afterwards, you have to figure out what to follow up with. So completely
Hmm.
understandable from both sides that they just want to eliminate the biggest issues and play a straightforward game of Overwatch if they both think that they can win in the head-to-head.
I mean, makes perfect sense to me. I have to imagine we're probably just going to see the Curie Lucio again. And I've got no reason to expect anything other than Cast Torb as well with the Reinhardt for Fellowship. I mean, maybe we see them swap it up, come out on a Junker Queen this time around, but so far their best look has been far and away that Reinhardt. But if you're Celestial, you can play a composition that completely decimates Reinhardt if you really want to here. You know, May exists. May is on the hero roster. You can play that. If you want to get really bad on here and just purely just play Counterwatch, you can play Sigma with May Bastion and Lucio Baptiste. You can just do that. That's a
Yeah.
combination of heroes you can play, and Reinhardt can't really do much to you in that comp.
Yeah, and what do you think now that the Torbjorn is banned out? What do you think we see here before we get our sneak peek?
We saw them play Sombra. You have to play May, right? So there's the Sombra. Yeah, that's the only thing we've seen them play so far. So
Huh.
that makes perfect sense to me. I'm still surprised to see no May though with the Reinhardt. Like it feels like it's such a common thing that you would see go together. And Celestial looking like we're going to see that Junker Queen composition. So I imagine Annex is going to go back over to that Genji once again.
It is going to be a little bit difficult, I think, for Tempt to actually find good hack targets here. I think there's a lot of coverage for those issues. And actually, with Annex switching over to the Reaper as well, I think that saves you a lot. I think that gives you really good ability to turn on the annoyance of Tempt. But the battle's getting started, and Wolfie goes low quick. A lot of early damage from Celestial Knights, but nobody really to pick up on it yet. Knights making the rotation around. They're going to try to come from the other side, but it's not a really fast rotation. You might want to play for the point instead. They do pull the Reinhardt closer, but that might not be a good thing. There's a lot of health on that Reinhardt. Annex goes down first, not the player you want to lose. That is a huge source of damage. Now, a hack onto the Junker Queen. It's going to see Wolfie getting in a little bit of a sticky situation, kind of surrounded, but Bananas does get eliminated first, so got to be a little easy for Fellowship to clean it up now.
And I mean, you said it there in the moment. The Reinhardt gets pulled in, and you're like, call an ambulance, but not for me type of moment, you know? It's like, that's what happened, right? The Reaper thought that having the Reinhardt up close was going to result in a kill, but then you got to remember, Reinhardt kills you in 2 swings and a fire strike. Like, that takes you down very, very quickly before you're able to really self-heal at all as the Reaper. Mr. Manhead already about to be up on this Kitsune rush as well.
Yeah, that's something to watch. It very well could come out in this fight to try and guarantee this point capture. We're almost halfway through the flashpoint here, and that's without that early fight time being online, so you have to think this could be near the last fight or an awkward situation. It's going to be a long one as well. Banana's able to stay online so far, but being hacked means extra damage will be taken. Rambo was found by Annex, but then immediately traded out. The tanks get traded out as well. No, sorry, Wolfie is still on, and as I say it, Wolfie does end up going down. Celestial able to bring their DPS and supports in for the win off of just, it wasn't even Mr. Manhead there. It was actually the Kitsune from the other side.
Yeah, it looks like we have a pause come out, so maybe that's why I didn't see any ultimates come out from Fellowship. I really expected them to engage with something in the middle of that fight. Instead, they just died with 4 ultimates. I was really surprised by that, but maybe somebody was just DCing, and that's why. Because I particularly expected the Kitsune Rush to come out super early there, get your Reinhardt in there swinging, get your Cass in there with the machine gun, you know? Like, that was what I was thinking was going to happen there. So, but it does look like we have like a DC of some sort, I'd have to imagine right now.
Yeah, one of those players going to have to get themselves situated back in the lobby. But for now, it was an early Fellowship win. Set them up pretty well. Celestial were able to fight their way back into it, but they're not winning that tank duel. They're always relying on the supports to stay alive long enough to let their DPS do the heavy damage. They're allowing their tank to go down early in the fight, and that's almost asking for it to be a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Junker Queen, the only way you win this matchup is by getting the huge axe swings off. You got to get axe swings on multiple targets every single time. And so far, I've been seeing Bananas mostly just swinging on just the Reinhardt. And just like, if you're just swinging on the Reinhardt, that's not going to be enough self-healing for you to sustain through all of what is happening down there in that tank exchange.
seems like the issue we're having is not a disconnect, but still a very important issue. And it's some of the players, I believe, are having some audio issues. And you need those sound cues. You need to know when those ultimates are coming online, even if they're not right in front of your face. So very clearly need to make sure that all these players have their audio situated. I like that it's still a back and forth. We don't get to really make any predictions on who's going to be winning yet because we've seen both teams win fights so far. So we are still at the beginning of this match. It is still a very heavy back and forth. And I think Fellowship does have the advantage here in the face of the composition that they're running down from Celestial Knights. They're not going to be able to as easily engage. They have to push past the barrier into that back line, not approaching from behind with really anybody other than Annex, but actually pushing in from the front, which is so dangerous when you're running down a Reinhardt. If your tank pushes past the barrier, that's like asking for your DPS to get pinned into a wall and then your backline have a hammer swung on them.
No, absolutely, and Reinhardt still does do a lot of damage. You know, regardless of if Reinhardt can be taken down, all you have to do is really surround Reinhardt. Surround Reinhardt, take care of everybody that's supporting Reinhardt, and then he falls over like the cardboard skin. So it's a process to deal with him, but it's a known process to deal with Ryan. Like everybody knows exactly what has to happen, and here we are going back into it. And Fellowship gonna have basically 5 ultimates online. Temp the furthest away, 75% to that EMP. But now Celestial Hope needs to get up to this sound barrier before these ultimates start coming out, because you're going to need that to try and counter a lot of what Fellowship's going to do.
Yeah, and even then it's questionable on whether you're actually going to be able to counter it all at once. They would have to very unwisely throw everything out at once. Speaking of which, Moonlight's there loses that overclock to the fact that Fellowship decided to play it back a little bit. They just don't engage while the overclock's online. They know it's such an easy ultimate to time, and they had the time to work with. There's Bananas going down first again, and Annex finds Rambo. It's the same way all of these fights have been starting. Each team has found their specific targets. Mr. Manhead's going to try to use the Kitsune to get them an advantage here, but Celestial Knights aren't having it. They don't drop any players without trading them back out. Annex able to keep themselves alive for the moment. A Shatter, it doesn't connect, but neither does the Death Blossom, so a pin will take down Annex. Now you've lost a lot of that extra damage, and Rambo able to keep everybody else alive with the sound barrier there in that fight.
And we are still in last fight for this point, so you got to make sure you don't lose anybody. Rampage about to be online for Bananas. Are they going to be able to touch, though? It's looking iffy right now, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah, that's a big EMP, and the ultimates are going out everywhere. That's a really huge Rampage. I'm really surprised that Bananas survived through that one. There's an opportunity for kills. X does end up going down to Big Brain, but you don't want to leave your supports trying to pick up those eliminations. Now it's Annex once again standing on point. The only player to try to save this one, and no, Fellowship will go ahead and take the first flashpoint, but not nearly uncontested.
No, that was an incredibly tough fought back and forth match point, whatever, area of the map that they were fighting on right there. But Wolfie, in the meantime, builds up to the Shatter, and I'm going to say it again. Oh, Annex going on to the May. That's the big play here. Now Wolfie has to think while playing Reinhardt, right? Wolfie can't. That's the best way I can put it, being a Reinhardt player myself. Wolfie has to think now.
Oh.
Like that right there. See how the wall just comes out immediately? Good Shatter, though.
Big Shatter to try and counter it, but a really good Suzu keeps a lot of those players alive. Once again, Bananas and Rambo get taken out first, and this time it's the entire backline of Celestial Knights falling. We can see that Annex swapping onto that May is going to be really, really huge for them. Still a little bit of health here left for X, but will eventually go down, get staggered out. Yeah, Annex has made a very, very wise swap here, and I'm actually surprised it took so long for them to make the choice.
I am too. We're seeing the Rhine duel. One has a May and one doesn't. So now I favor Celestial Knights a lot in this exchange, because May is almost like Widowmaker in the way that she changes the way that you have to play the game when she comes out just by existing on the field. Let alone if her walls are actually in good positions or not. You still have to play as if they're always going to be in good positions.
It also makes it tough on Tempt a little bit here, because not only do some of your angles get cut off, and not only can you be dropped in the front line. Oh, look at that wall. Beautiful, and paired with an overclock that's going to find those eliminations as well. This is the Celestial Knights that we have been missing since map 1. They just slowly started to fall apart, thinking that they were a little bit too comfortable and could play whatever they wanted. Now they've got it back together. They're playing reorganized again. They're taking it seriously, and this is looking like a winning team again.
And I mean, I got to be honest, if Fellowship wants to try and take this map, I think Tempt has to play Mei. I don't think you can play into a Mei and not have a Mei and be successful in the Rhine duel.
Yeah, the Reaper's a decent swap off of the Sombra, but honestly, still not good enough. Moonlights is able to use that distance advantage, and Wolfie finds 2 with a Fire Strike, so this one might just go longer than we expected. Big Brain and Moonlights both fall. It wasn't the cleanest fight ever, but Fellowship did pick up a win, and they're going to have the ultimates just slightly in their favor.
All right, here's the moment we've all been waiting for. The Shatter is going to be available, but Annex having this Blizzard, I think is going to deny every bit of value that Wolfie's going to try and get with this Shatter. I just get the feeling that Blizzard's going to come out the second that this Shatter gets heard.
Could be the Kitsune as well. Really, anything Fellowship could want to use here could be countered. But Annex goes down early, so that Blizzard isn't going to be used. It doesn't go out. It doesn't get canceled. Never even triggered. Now it's Shatter v Shatter. Just thrown out there by Bananas. Doesn't catch anything. There's no pin either. You have to give this one up if you're Celestial Knights because you just don't have it. But no, instead they decide to commit a sound barrier. Their whole team is going to drop, and now they're not going to have enough time to touch again.
That is a tough exchange right there. That's a Rhine differential right there. One shatters the shield, one shatters the rest of the team. That is a great play coming out from Wolfie. I mean, we've all been there before playing Reinhardt. So, I feel for you there, Bananas. Annex immediately goes down. There goes Big Brain. They're just kind of feeding ult charge now. And this is actually looking very favorable for Fellowship. They've got the sound barrier available to try and counter out this Blizzard. And then you've got two DPS ultimates as well available in the Deadeye and the Death Blossom. So I really like Fellowship in this first fight. I've seen Rambo do such a great job on this Lucio. I have a hard time believing that they're just going to not have a good sound barrier here in the next minute here.
I think one of the issues that came through here was also the fact that Annex wasn't really reading the situation. It's a really nice wall there to try and make up for it, but they're not able to find the eliminations yet. And in fact, Bananas has to really pull back. Gonna end up, somehow not going down. There's the Blizzard. It will find the freeze onto the Lucio. Rambo will go down, and once again, Celestial Knights will be able to pick up the first touch. So they don't win the first fight, but Fellowship also hang on to a lot of the ultimates that we expected them to use to be able to win it.
I mean, that's a good job by Rambo not using the sound barrier there. They were so split from everybody else. Everybody else walked into that tight little room. They weren't going to get sound barrier anyways, so you may as well just hold on to it for a situation where it'll actually be pretty useful. But Wolfie still ahead on this Reinhardt ult charge right now, and Bananas just probably needs to land some more of these fire strikes or get some more swings in or something because you would expect them to be relatively even at this point.
Yeah, and landing some decent ones there is starting to even it up. The overclock, once again, Fellowship playing wise, falling back. They take a little bit more damage than maybe they had previously on some of those overclocks, but Bananas playing quite far up. That is a Reinhardt you're playing into. That goes through the shield. A really nice wall to counter the sound barrier. The Shatter comes out but doesn't get anything. The Suzu will make sure it doesn't find anything as well. The Reaper here with the Death Blossom going to drop onto the point, finds both of the backliners before getting eliminated. Was it enough? Yes, it looks like it was for Fellowship to get on point here. Start to take a hold. They did use almost everything they had, but they still have a huge ultimate coming online in the back pocket.
Yeah, they do. Having the Kitsune Rush available is big time. Annex builds ult so incredibly fast on every single hero that they play. I swear they just use Blizzard and they're 75% once again. So there's not going to be anything available to counter that out. So you kind of just have to hope that you get the stray pick onto Annex like we were seeing on point number 2 if you're Fellowship. But you're going to want to engage pretty early here with this Kitsune Rush.
Yeah, there are those fire strikes that are going to get Bananas actually ahead in the lead here. Mr. Manhead does use that Kitsune Rush. There's no tank available to Celestial Knights to hide behind, but the Blizzard's online. Will it be thrown at the feet? No, not going to be used. Annex is going to hold on to it again. Maybe believing in the team here to be able to find the win. They need to hurry up and drop because this is a lost fight. These players die, but it might have been a little bit too late. Moonlights goes down. Can they chase down one more? No, Celestial Knights might get a chance to touch, and they have the ultimates to make this happen if outnumbered. This is their last chance, though.
They have the ultimates available to them. You kind of, at this point, the only thing you can do is amp speed if you're Rambo, try and get everybody out of this Blizzard, because, I mean, the Blizzard's going to come out right now, right?
Yeah, it looks like it is. The wall's there as well. Moonlight's able to eliminate Wolfie with the help of the rest of the team. Hope does go down to the Deadeye, but it seems like it was a little bit too much focus on finding that elimination. Hope was actually a really good distraction there. Celestial Knight's going to find the team kill to keep them in it, and at 99%, Fellowship will just barely not get their 3rd point.
Oof, just barely staying alive on this map are Celestial Knights. This is a pretty even fight incoming, though. Both teams having Shatter. Moonlight's going to have that overclock available to them. Big Brain getting relatively close to that Kitsune Rush as well. And then for the other side, we're going to have the Shatter available from Wolfie, as well as the Death Blossom and the Sound Barrier available from Rambo. I really think the Rhine exchange is always key when you're playing a Rhine composition, but keep an eye on Rambo's Sound Barrier usage here. That's going to be crucial to this fight.
Yeah, it really is. And Bananas is starting to approach that objective. Now standing on it, both of the tanks going to be dueling with each other. The Shatter comes out. It finds some in the back line and a nice charge to eliminate Mr. Manhead. But Bananas ends up going down in the meantime. A Sound Barrier comes out to try to help Fellowship get this one. Wolfie puts down the Shatter, but doesn't find any eliminations. Ends up getting taken down themselves. Rambo, one of the last players left on the point right now. It's actually looking like Fellowship don't have a lot of damage to put out. There is a Death Blossom available. Will it have to be used here? Tempt isn't really able to find any eliminations yet. Has to get out of there, so it's going to be the first point hold going to Celestial Knights.
Great Shatter there from Bananas, really forcing out a lot of resources from Fellowship. And now, like, the key ult here is going to be the Death Blossom from Tempt. It has to be big time, because otherwise you're looking at another Blizzard from Annex. Again, I don't know how they just have that ult again, but Hope taking down Mr. Manhead is not how you want to start.
Oh, that's an early elimination that might stop you from committing any ultimates, especially with X as low as they are. Yeah, Moonlights is going to win that long-range fight. Now, going to push them back a little bit, find a few extra eliminations, which is really key here, especially if they find this last one they're looking for. It doesn't seem like they will. That would definitely put them in last fight territory without touch chance. Now, honestly, there's still a chance to do that. The fact that the entire team is waiting to group up and you're about to be at 70%, this really might be it.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely going to be last fight for this point. And Annex having that Blizzard online, there it is.
Oh, and that's going to find the easy elims. Yeah, you're at 80%. You find Wolfie early. Your tank is still at decent amount of health. Don't push too far forward now, Bananas. You don't really need to. You'll be all right. They only lose one player. Opportunity for a touch. Are they going to go for it? It's the Reaper touching first. Still has the Death Blossom in the back pocket. They'll be able to find the elimination. You got to think it's going to start closing out now. An ice wall to cut off Wolfie, but Wolfie is already alone. Sound Barrier just to make sure that this one is a win. Hope is going to start charging that one up again. And a nice couple fight wins in a row. It's something that, weirdly enough, Celestial have been struggling to do in the last two maps, is combo team fight wins into one another. But now they're kind of keeping even with the Ultimate Economy, even if they don't really have any online right now. They've got a few coming up.
Can I just point out again, Annex just used Blizzard and is now 50% to Blizzard. Like, it just happened. Like, I'm not even over exaggerating this time. It actually just happened.
Yeah.
And you got the overclock online as well as the Shatter. Basically, you know, that's one Fire Strike. Fellowship has a lot of ultimates available to them as well. They're going to have to be the aggressors, though, as Celestial Knights already have the positioning here on point.
Yeah, if you're Celestial Knights here, I think there's an opportunity to honestly force out Fellowship's ultimates. It's going to start with Moonlights, though, popping the overclock. It's really hard to find targets through that Reinhardt shield, but Wolfie's going to drop the shield for a bit, give an opportunity to land some shots, and still, Moonlights doesn't find any eliminations. Annex does, though, and without using any ultimates there, Celestial Knights are able to take the team fight win as long as they're able to find some more eliminations. Yes, they do. So, interestingly, although they don't force out ultimates from Fellowship, they only had to use one of their own, and they still have three really important ones in the pocket.
No, absolutely. Like, I'm always going to point out the Blizzard just because, to me, that's the most annoying ultimate to try and deal with a composition that groups up as much as the Reinhardt comp does. And, you know, I feel like Tempt has had this Death Blossom for quite a while. I could be mistaken on that, but, like, there's not really a good opening to use it into the composition that you're going against right now. It's a hard ult to get value out of here.
It's really tricky. I mean, you see how the angles the Sojourn is taking away from the team. The Shatter gets blocked. It's a charge from Bananas, but gonna get healed up. So a successful Shatter cancel this time from the side of Celestial Knights. That Death Blossom we were talking about, it does find some eliminations, but a lot of ultimates were used, and Celestial Knights hung on to most of theirs and got themselves to 85%. Crucially, that Blizzard and the Sound Barrier are both coming up.
And for the side of Fellowship, they've got the Sound Barrier and the Deadeye available to them. Moonlight's probably going to get up to that overclock as well, somewhere in the middle of this fight. And this is last point, right? So you got potentially two fights here, depending on how long you take to engage into this next one. So you can burn your ults here, or you can save your ults for last fight. That's really up to you.
That's so much damage taken early by Fellowship. They have to move back, and it's a Blizzard just to commit to taking down Wolfie. Now it's going to be a really late beat coming out from Rambo. Bananas ends up going down, but Hope drops that beat as well. Tempt is able to stay alive. The one player that was at the most risk there for a moment. The DPS players have to stay calm, and it's X that ends up finding Moonlights for an elimination. None of the Fellowship players going low anymore. They're the ones finding the limbs. They only have 15% remaining. These staggers have to come in. Somebody has to touch. Who will it be? Annex finds one elimination, tries to get the party started, but gets taken down. Only 2% remaining. You've got your tank there. Gets charged out. It looks like Fellowship are going to be able to close this one off and send us to a map 5.
Ooh, that looked really risky there for a little while for the side of Fellowship. They do manage to win the fight without their tank, though. Celestial just doing what always happens to me in my comp games. Just commit the Blizzard, force the Reinhardt to get stuck in a corner with it, and they just die. But luckily for the side of Fellowship, they still were managing to win the fight even without their Reinhardt. And Wolfie doing such a good job for a majority of this map. And we see Temp swap over to the Reaper. And like I said, when it was happening, Reaper ult is tough to get value out of into a Reinhardt because he can simply just either block you or turn around and pin you. Like it's relatively simple most of the time to try and deal with that ultimate. So yeah, kudos to Temp. We only saw him play Torbjorn up until this map, so I was really happy to see them do well on another hero.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think what would have happened if the Torbjorn was available in that one, and that's what we're about to see on the next map, our very final map, our map 5. That Torbjorn's going to be available, the Ramatra is going to be available, everything is going to be on the board, and it's going to get really tricky to find those bans. But before we can get into any of our map 5 setup, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. On the other side of it, we're going to have our map 5 to close out this really tight series. So stick around, we'll see you on the other side of this break.
Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are running a late Wednesday night here for the Masters North America tier. Celestial Knights versus Fellowship Esports. It is 2-2. Last time we came back from break, we were thinking Celestial Knights might just be closing this one out on push on Runasapi. That is not how it ended up going.
No, I mean, now we have a potential reverse sweep in the makings here. As soon as Fellowship got onto this Reinhardt composition, Celestial just hasn't had an answer for it. They almost did on New Junk City. I would like to see how that map goes if they just take the Rhine mirror from the beginning, because we didn't see the Rhine come out until it was already 2-0 in favor of Fellowship. So then we ended up getting the 2-2, ended up being a 3-2. It was last fight territory. Either team could have taken it. Just so happened Fellowship took it. So I'm curious if Celestial is just going to come right on out, just be like, all right, we're just Rhining it up here for the entirety of this map on Chimbali Monastery.
Rhining it up would be nice. There's always the Ramatra option as well, though, of course. Celestial Knights, they're not going to be able to, well, Fellowship aren't going to be able to ban out that hero this time. They've already used up that ban, so not going to be able to cover that ground, the very possible Ramatra. And another thing is, they've shown willingness to play the Winston, and there are some parts of this map where that Winston can be played, especially rounding the end of the first point, going into the second. You can really utilize that Winston to get to that high ground and make sure you can maneuver probably the most difficult part of the map to attack on.
No, there's absolutely, you can run a Sigma here as well, but Poke is really good on this map. I think, though, it depends. It depends on if you're going to take the Rhine duel or not. If you're going to take the Rhine duel, as Celestial Knights, you need to ban a DPS, because if I'm Fellowship, I'm probably going to ban Mei so that you can't play Mei into me anymore. You know, gives my Reinhardt a lot more freedom to move around the map however they want to. But if you're not going to take the Rhine duel, then you might want to ban the Lucio. Maybe you just stop them from moving quickly, and you're going to play that dive composition, so you don't need Lucio anyways. You can run on a Brig. Or maybe you play the Poke composition. You can play Babzen, Vapillari. Yep, there goes the Lucio. Okay, so that's probably what's happening here. the side of Celestial is not going to take the Rhine duel on this map. They're going to play a composition outside of that. And so I probably ban Tracer here if I'm Fellowship. I think you don't want to have to deal with a potential Tracer dive. So that would be my guess. I don't know, though.
Yeah, I think the Lucio ban was actually pretty wise because, I mean, it's been 2 maps now that they have neglected banning the Lucio when they know that there's a problem to deal with on the other side. Rambo has been everything that they needed him to be for the entirety of this game just on that Lucio alone. So finally banning it out and deciding, listen, our Lucio just is not having the same impact. It's better to go without it. We have the flexibility. And then on the other side, it's exactly as you predicted. I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. You have to shut down that Mei. You're going to be playing Brawl on this map. You cannot be having your tank get separated by an ice wall.
Yeah, like the ban still makes sense to me. You could have went for a Sigma or a Winston, assuming that they're not going to mirror you on the Brawl comp. But you're so confident in your Brawl, you think that you're going to force the mirror out of them no matter what composition they play. So you're banning the Mei out anyways. And that still makes sense to me as well, even with the Lucio getting banned.
Yeah, I think both of those bans are kind of the culmination of what this game has been building up for at this point. This is a very readable, predictable map 5 end, and this is just how it's going to go. So we're going to head to that Shambali Monastery very soon, and I really do think that there was more success on the side of Celestial Knights when they played the Ramatra. I know that on that push map, they had a difficult time playing the Ramatra, the Reinhardt, but I still think there's merit to it because the rest of the team seems to play better around the Ramatra, the ability to mitigate the damage, than they can play around the shield of the Reinhardt. So if that's your team's core strength, don't try to force the Reinhardt. Try to work on what you're good at and just find your way around what they've been countering you with.
Part of me is thinking that the poke composition is going to come out. We're going to see the Sigma, and we're just going to see them play at range and try and poke out this Reinhardt as fast as they possibly can. But maybe they do just opt for the Ramatra and they go like Juno Brig or Ana Brig or something like that with it. It looks like right now, though, those look like some very pokey heroes that are about to come out right now, but we're still seeing the Reinhardt anyways. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, something else of note here is that little Lucio is swapping in on the DPS, and this time it's going to be the Torbjorn coming back out. So very interesting that they would make a roster change, possibly not planning to play this Torbjorn all the way through. Just going to be playing this one at the beginning. Also interesting here is the Kiriko Juno. With that Lucio missing, the adaptation was simply to throw the Juno in for the speed boost.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You want the speed ring. You want your Reinhardt to still be pretty mobile. So, yeah, it totally makes sense to me. We're going to see the Ramatra with double snipers and Ana Brig. So, yeah, you're going to have a tough time catching an angle, though. Oh, I say that, and then somebody gets a headshot immediately, so what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think this is just going to be an opener. They're not going to stick with this the whole time. Annex has already made the switch onto the Symmetra, possibly going to teleport them onto the high ground, starting with the turrets right now. But that teleporter can come out at any moment. Right now, it doesn't need to, though. Fellowship Esports are just holding back. They're not contesting the cart. They're going to try to attack from behind, and they do a good job of splitting off Annex and finding that early elimination. They chase down the Brig. They'll find that one, too. So it's some early elims. They do lose X and Tempt, and the respawn is in favor of Celestial here. So they're going to have to get those players back. Luckily, the Juno will have a speed boost to try to bring them back in sufficient time.
Yeah, and I mean, really decisive movement there from Fellowship. Everybody was on the same target, just running in, trying to kill that person. So I really appreciate the difference we're seeing from earlier when they were on different compositions. They couldn't seem to figure out that coordination. And X taking down Moonlights, that is a tough one to lose.
Yeah, that's early, but you'd rather take an early player loss here from if you're Celestial Knights than if you're Fellowship Esports. They can hold back for a moment, and that's what they're doing. Try to hold back, relax a little. Bananas is eventually going to want to get aggressive and put some punches down into that shield right in the face, but no, Annex is going to drop, and it seems like X is just able to rotate those DPS out and make sure they never have a full team available. Finally, Fellowship feel comfortable making the rush down. They eliminate Bananas, find an opening. A little bit of space was gained there by Moonlight standing on the cart, pushed up to the choke point, but you still have to get past Fellowship now to reach it.
Yeah, and I mean, Wolfie having the shatter online, that's something that you have to deal with. I said it on Runasapi. I'm going to say it again. As soon as that shield comes out, if you walk down this staircase corridor, once again, you're going to get shattered as like 5 players. You might still get shattered as 5 players, even like this.
Oh, and a nice TP there to the other side. They've kind of flipped the map now. It's Fellowship Esports that have to actually push through the choke point, but they're able to hold from this side. Even if they don't want to push through the choke, they can still hold this. You mentioned that shatter. It's going to be open to them. An orbital ray comes out. Now the shatter, you have to think the lineup is there. Really good patience from Wolfie. A nicely timed shield from Bananas holds that one from actually coming through. X doesn't find anything with the Deadeye, but Annex is able to find one. Bananas as well. Slowly but surely, Fellowship starting to drop. Not a lot of ultimates used for the win there. Celestial are able to hang on to it. They might be able to snowball this one through the entire first point. Oh, they do use the Annihilation, though.
Yeah, the Annihilation does come out. You still have both your support ults as well as a Tactical Visor, though, so you're really not too upset losing that. And I don't think there's going to be a good touch here. You could maybe force a touch, but I don't think it's going to be worthwhile for you to drop down and touch this point.
Oh my goodness, and all the damage that X took trying to drop down. There's an orbital ray, there's lava all over the floor. It is so hard to be able to get into this one. And yet somehow, Wolfie able to find an elimination on both of the backliners, both of those supports. Bananas is still finding eliminations. There is only 0.68 meters to go. It's a little back and forth, which you don't want happening here if you're Fellowship trying to hold this. Annex was able to find a lot of late elims, and eventually Celestial with lower numbers will actually be able to... Oh, no, I take it back. They only have 1 player remaining. The Fellowship do hold.
Just barely. They got to make sure Wolfie stays up. Wolfie gonna have this shatter online. Needs to be just a little bit quicker with it than they were last time. Gave that Ramatra shield enough time to come back online and then block the shatter again. That's the only thing you have to wait on. You wait on that shield, the shatter is free after that. There you go.
Ooh, and there it is. Hope goes down. Bananas as well, even despite not getting hit by that shatter, gets taken out by the DPS. That's a quick one, and we're already into overtime. It feels like it was such a quick round, but that's going to be it. It's going to be Fellowship cleaning up here. They hold Celestial to the first point. That one's not going to go any longer in round 1. We're going to flip sides and see if Fellowship can push themselves just to the first point.
I mean, it seems like they cannot deal with the absolute unit that is Wolfie on this Reinhardt right now. They were able to deal with it last map by playing the Mei, but I really think it might have just been too little, too late going on to that Mei pick. This is still holdable for sure if you're Celestial, but the Fellowship just seems to really be on an insane roll right now, and it's going to take like some crazy good plays from the side of Celestial to really stop this push. This is a map that's first point holdable. It's fuller holdable, as I like to call it. Watch Point Gibraltar is notorious for that, as well as Havana. This is another one of those maps that can happen on, but it's a tough ask. It's a really tough ask.
Yeah, and it is the matchup I thought we were going to be seeing, the Ramatra into the Reinhardt. But what I think is interesting here about Celestial's attempt on a defense is going to be Moonlights on that Ashe. Only one time did we see the Ashe ban. I think that this is one of Ashe's not only best maps, but this point right here, you talk about that fuller hold. Ashe can usually be a really instrumental piece to that. How can you push through the dynamite? How can you get away from taking headshots down the straightaway? You have to push to the high ground, and then you're just at the mercy of a nice rotation with the coach gun, and then you're still being shot down on from different high grounds, different ledges.
Tempt being on the Zen is going to be tough too. I think Wolfie's going to have a hard time staying alive. Okay, we see the Juno swap come back out. But already, there you go. Moonlight's getting that pick just like you were talking about, just like that.
Yeah, I can already find an elimination, and now going for the rest of those supports as well. Wolfie's able to find Annex. That was something that was happening on their defense as well when Annex was trying to push in on attack. Didn't find any success this time either, finding an early elimination. Moonlights has all the pressure. You see the rotation to the other high ground now. This is what I was talking about. Going to be able to still shoot down from above. There are a lot of projectiles that can really slow down this push, but it seems like Celestial are trying to play safe. They want to play from a natural high ground here on the ramp that you can see coming up. They're going to hold to the choke point, which is the first opportunity that you get to shut this down. The teleporter is going to make things really tricky, switch things up a lot. Well, Lucio's turret doesn't stay up for very long. Nobody's dropped just yet. We saw when the map was flipped this way in the last round, it went the exact same way. Now Wolfie close to dropping, finds Annex first, and then dies themselves. It's a trade, actually, as the turrets pick up Wolfie. Some of the support's really low, so Fellowship have to back off, but they have the advantage to do so, with Annex going to be slower to come back.
Yeah, good work. We're just retreating off of that loss of your tank player there. You really want to make sure that you're grouped up as 5 players when you push this. Moonlight going to have that that Bob available, though, so that's going to be something that's going to be tough to deal with. Just a lot of damage going to be incoming.
At Deadeye open and available, there's some shields that you're going to have to work around, but it's here. A lot of players out in the open. You got to make sure you're not taking too much damage. There's the Bob in a really nice spot, too, past the choke point where it can still put damage on the shield. Eventually, Bob does end up going down, and now the pressure's too much from Fellowship. They put out a ton of ults, and it's responded to by Celestial Knights putting out some of their own, but it's not enough to stop it. The Orbital Ray, the Annihilation, the Bob, none of it was enough, and now Fellowship Esports creeping up on that golden box of victory. I don't even know if there's going to be a touch here. Moonlight switches to the Tracer just to try to make it happen. Eventually will. The Orbital Ray coming down from above. It gets pushed through despite players being there to try to touch. Fellowship are going to take the win for free in that last fight. There's going to be no aggression, and that's going to be a reverse sweep as well from Fellowship. They were once down 0-2 in this matchup, and in the end, they end up winning 3-2, a full reverse sweep. There's no harder way to win a match of Overwatch unless it was a grand finals, reverse sweep, and a best of 7. So a really tough game. They had to keep their mental together, and a beautiful win. They're going to go ahead and carry on, and honestly, they really, really earned it here. If they can win one more, you talked about it, they might just head to that mid-season tournament.
And yeah, now with them being on this stream as well, everybody's going to be fully aware. You don't want to deal with this Reinhardt potentially, but you can only ban the heroes that really do help promote the Reinhardt 2 times. You can ban the Lucio once, and we just saw what happened when the Lucio was banned. They just went Juno anyways, replaced Juno with Lucio essentially. And you can ban the Reinhardt 1 time. And that's all you can really do. If Fellowship just decides to really hard commit to this Reinhardt composition, it has to be dealt with, because as we saw, Wolfie could not be dealt with for this entire series.
It is a little bit tricky. There are a lot of supports that cover for each other's strengths and weaknesses now. If you ban one support, there's really a lot of options to cover for what they're not going to bring to the table. Even an Ana could have been played in that one without being banned, could have boosted that Reinhardt's capability for offense and being able to get aggressive. But either way, at the end of the day, it's Fellowship Esports taking a really hard-earned win in the Masters NA tier. A huge congratulations to them. A really, really nice fight from Celestial Knights. They were looking dominant at times, so it's crazy to think that they ended up losing this one. But congratulations to both teams moving forward. Surely they're going to have successes of their own. Fellowship Esports come out on top this time, and that's all we've got for you here tonight. So that's going to close out our Wednesday night, our first day of the week.
Actually, we are going to cut to a quick break here, and we'll have an interview shortly after that. So stick around for that. We're going to talk to somebody from Fellowship Esports and see what they have to say about their reverse sweep they just pulled out here.
Can't stop, I'm forever one you
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Following the end of this game, we've got Mr. Manhead and Lil Lucio here. Just let me say, first of all, what a comeback. Congratulations to you guys on that reverse sweep. How are you guys feeling after the game?
I'm feeling pretty good. It was a really good game.
Yeah, I'm feeling fantastic. That was a real hype. I wasn't expecting to play, so I was happy.
No, that was a crazy good series from you all as well as the other side. Also, what was it that changed between maps 1 and 2 and then going on to 3, 4, and 5? Because it looked incredibly dominant for the side of Celestial on maps number 1 and 2, and then it just flipped on its head and it looked very dominant for you all the next 3 maps. Was it just simply the fact that you started playing the Reinhardt comp, or what was it exactly that led to that?
I think we were just in our heads a little bit. I think at the start we weren't thinking straight. We weren't playing our full game. We were very split up. The comms weren't really there. And then we kind of figured it out after a while. We played our game, made them play our game, and I think that really worked out for us.
Yeah.
No. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna just say the same exact thing. We were sitting in the 5-minute break between map 2 and 3, and I just kind of told everybody, like, you guys are better than these guys. Just play your game. Stop letting them get in your head, and just win. You're better.
All right, the halftime pep talk manages to get the team up and raring to go for maps 3, 4, and 5. And then my other question would be, what did you think of the bans here? It felt like they played a really crucial role going into the last few maps here, and I'm just curious if you all felt the exact same way about that.
I would say, yeah. I mean, it seemed like our bans like really took a toll on them. When we banned the Ram, they couldn't play the Ram. They didn't really know what to do, it seemed like. So I think that really worked out for us, choosing the right bans to give us a little advantage.
Certainly did. When it comes to moving forward in the season, because obviously this was a really tough win for you guys to pull out, and you did a great job keeping the mental, but pushing forward in the season, we were talking a little bit during the show about the fact that now that you're sitting at a 2-1, there is still a potential for you guys to hit that mid-season tournament if you guys are able to take another win. So how do you guys prepare not only for the next upcoming game, but to be ready for something like a big tournament in the mid-season or pushing toward the end of the season playoffs, you know, if you're even looking that far ahead?
I mean, I would say we're kind of looking that far ahead, but keeping our mental up is very, very big. Like, whatever we do, we just got to make sure that we're ready and no one's like super nervous to do anything, because that really makes it fall apart, whether like somebody isn't feeling too great about it or like they're not ready. Like, we got to make sure that we're all really prepared and that we're ready to win, because we all believe that we can win, and I think we can.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, we're probably one of the more resilient teams mental-wise, I'd say, throughout my entire experience. We're playing in Overwatch. So I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity, just to, you know, even when we're down like 0-2, we're still playing like it's map 1, like nothing's happening, there's no stress or anything. So we just kind of take games by ear and just come out at the end. We're pretty scrappy.
you certainly proved it tonight. You've backed up your own claims with action. So, Mr. Manhead, Lil Lucio, thank you for joining us. Is there anything, you guys had a lot of people rooting for you in chat tonight. Clearly, you guys have friends and fans, people watching, enjoying watching your games. So, do you have anything you want to shout them out for? Give some shout outs, say anything to your fans and everything.
I'll give a shout out to Justin. He's my PGE lover. He's always being funny, you know, playing his game, having the most fun. So I think shout out to him for sure.
That's X for people wondering.
Oh yeah, X.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we call each other. Yeah, I just shout out all of our supporters, everyone in the Fellowship Esports community. You know, we're growing every day, and we're a pretty close knit community still. Really happy that everyone can come out, even if they don't really play Overwatch. I saw some Valorant kids in there supporting the Overwatch team. Made me really happy to see. So just really appreciate all the support.
That's what esports is all about at the end of the day. So really glad to hear it. Obviously, it blessed you guys today. You guys had a fantastic game. So congratulations on your win. Go celebrate with the team. Have a good week. Get ready for the next one. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And thank you to everybody at home for joining us tonight on this broadcast. That's all we've got for this Wednesday night. We've got our game out of the way. We've got our interviews done. EU, NA, all finished up. But we will be here tomorrow and all through the weekend. So be sure to join at 3 p.m. Eastern for those EU games if you are in NA, which if you're watching this, you probably are. And then, of course, at around 8 p.m. Eastern if you want to catch those NA games each night. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Speedy. This is Shadow Fang. And we hope that you have a fantastic night and join us for the rest of the week. See you later.